to watch. So I've got you guys an update on a very big storm that we've got to talk about here that is going to impact parts of the southeast, especially Florida. All right, so that tropical wave we've been talking about for a while, it is now potential tropical cyclone 4. All right, so by the time you're watching this video, it's probably a tropical depression at this point. But we now have named it potential tropical cyclone 4. It is expected to strengthen into a tropical storm before slamming parts of Florida, and then it's going to move offshore from Florida, and then we really don't know exactly what's going to happen from there, but there's a chance this could even be a hurricane. All right, I've got all the details coming right up. All right, so thank you for joining me here on this Friday night. We have a lot to talk about in this video as we're going to go over all the latest information and pretty, big information that we just got from the National Hurricane Center and from all the models. We're going to be breaking it down, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the storm, and I'm just going to be telling you guys what this means and who needs to be prepared and who needs to be preparing now. All right. So starting out here, just take a look at your current satellite loop. As you can see, looking at the Atlantic, our storm is popping off pretty well. You can see it very clearly. It's right over here in Cuba, all right, where I drew that X. That's where our storm is. You can see it's got a nice little spin to it. It's got a lot of convection that's beginning to pop off in and around the center of the storm. So you're starting to get that, circulation there, and it's just making its way through Cuba. I know Cuba, the terrain can be a little difficult for the storm, but it's not going to slow it down because once it gets into these Gulf waters, it is going to just explode. So as you can see, we're seeing direction like this, and this is pretty much where it's going to be headed. All right, notice how all around this region we have no dry air whatsoever. We only have moist air, all right? And so you look at the rest of the Atlantic, because we're not going to talk about the rest of the Atlantic today, but we will in future updates. Look at all this dust. I mean, we've had this dust for a while, but it got even more intense, and there's just so much dust that's gotten kind of trapped in this high pressure, and it's lifted north of the MDR and the Caribbean. So that's the problem, because we have a train of tropical moisture and tropical waves that are kind of just moving through this region. And as you can see, we have two other tropical waves that we can actually spot here on satellite. This one, which is pretty robust right now, it's already got a lot of convection popping off. And then we've got one behind it that's still trying to come off the coast of Africa. So we still have some activity that's picking up out there in the Atlantic, and in future updates, I believe we will have to talk about this one, because some models have picked up on some possible development with this one. So this isn't going to be it. I think soon to be Debby. I don't think it's going to be our last storm, obviously. I should say our last storm in this week or whatever. I mean, this I don't think is going to, certainly it won't form like next week or whatever, but this may end up having a chance to form, noted by like the National Hurricane Center. Like, how they put out area of interest for every storm. We may get one of those for this storm maybe sometime next week, all right? But after Debby, what I'm meaning to say is that after Debby, it's not going to be it for a while. We're still going to have more activity picking up behind it, all right? So we're going to move over here to the National Hurricane Center, and as you can see, we still have that red X, but under it, you see the word or the name 4, all right? So they have named this potential tropical cyclone 4. They do this for storms that have pretty much formed and almost are guaranteed to form, basically a near 90% chance of development, but they're not quite tropical depressions, all right? So as of right now, we have maximum sustained winds at around 30 miles per hour, all right? So this is very, very close to being a tropical depression, even a tropical storm, perhaps. All right, but by the time you're watching this video, this is probably most likely a tropical depression, and this may even be Tropical Storm Debby by the time you're watching this video. That's very possible, but you have a minimum central pressure around 1,010 millibars. That has dropped pretty considerably. It's continuing to drop, and so, not the strongest of storms, obviously, still a pretty weak storm, but you can see we have movement west-northwest at around 14 knots, which is about 16 miles per hour. So there you have it. That's your storm right here. And you look at the cone from the National Hurricane Center. They have issued a cone. All right, this is their forecast cone. They do issue forecast cones for potential tropical cyclones, and so we got one here. All right, this is as of the 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update. This is where its location was by 8 p.m. today. You can see as we go a little bit farther into the night, so you see this little depression signature here. They're saying that probably by the next update, which is in about an hour and a half from the recording of this video, this will be a tropical depression. So this most likely is a tropical depression already. But you can see pretty much it's expected to strengthen to a tropical depression, and then by tomorrow morning we will wake up with this being a tropical depression, and then this strengthens into a tropical storm by about 2 a.m. Sunday. So tomorrow night into Sunday morning, we will have potentially tropical storm Debby. All right, and Debby is going to strengthen. She's going to want to gain latitude, like strengthening storms do in when tropical cyclones gain strength, they want to gain latitude, they want to move farther north, and that's what Debbie's going to do. It's going to get caught up in our pattern, all right, so it's going to bring it farther north. We have a little trough that's coming down here from the United States, going to try and pick up the storm, help it move to the north, and Debbie's going to kind of turn up towards Florida by 2 p.m. Sunday, all right, and as you can see, we already do have tropical storm watches going out for the Florida Keys, all right? And that is because we have an expected tropical depression by 2 p.m. Saturday, and it should be pretty much right on top of the Florida Keys at that point. And then you get the tropical storm warnings, right? That's for the coastal regions of Florida, what the coastal regions that are basically side by side with the point that shows Debby becoming a tropical storm, if that makes sense. All right, you go up a little farther up the coast of Florida, and you get more tropical storm watches. I can almost guarantee you that these will definitely be upgraded to tropical storm warnings. They may even be upgraded to tropical storm warnings by the next update. All right, but as of right now in the yellow shade, you have tropical storm watches. All right, this goes up all the way, towards the Big Bend of Florida. So very similar to where Idalia hit last year. All right, but this makes a technical landfall as a tropical storm by 2 in the morning Monday. So you're talking about late Sunday night into early Monday morning is when you get landfall with Debby as a tropical storm. This would be a strong tropical storm making landfall. Maintains its tropical storm status all the way into Georgia. This is bringing tropical storm impacts to Georgia, weakens out a little bit, and then we enter the cone of uncertainty. All right, this is where we pretty much don't have a good understanding of what's going to happen, but we can safely say that the storm is going to be located somewhere in here, this little dotted cone that you see here, right? So we're thinking that probably sometime by 2 p.m. Tuesday, this will be either off the coast or pretty much just on the coast of South Carolina, and this is going to advance further north up to North Carolina. Notice how Virginia, even into extreme southern Maryland, you guys are currently in the cone of uncertainty, all right? The path of uncertainty. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen here. This is subject to change. But if you're in Florida right now, all right, you're probably under a state of emergency if you are in the path of this storm. But it's not going to be anything that you guys can't handle. But we're expecting a landfall sometime by in between late Sunday night and early Monday morning. You can see it'll be just off the coast by 2 p.m. Sunday, and it's going to kind of gently kind of throw itself into northern Florida and make that landfall, all right? So, we're looking at the GFS model here. This is a very reliable model, as we discovered. The models really got their act together today, and we really figured out, we got a strong hold on where this is going to go, and the models really just started to tighten up, and the GFS turned out to be the winner. GFS turned out to be the right one all along, and so we're just going to break it down from here. All right, so as you can see, this little blob of green and moisture, that's your potential tropical cyclone 4. All right, and as you can see, we get into tonight and then into tomorrow. This is all the way at 2 p.m. tomorrow. All right, you have about 1,012 millbar low, so, I mean, you could definitely expect this to be lower, but you could even have a tropical depression at this point, probably a tropical depression. All right, this is pretty much just to the west of the Florida Keys, but you're still getting part of the core and then a lot of these outer bands if you're in the Florida Keys and even into South Florida and stuff. You could even see impacts all the way up towards like Miami. All right, but this is beginning to intensify. This gets down to 1,007 millibar low by tomorrow night. All right, and then we get into to into Sunday morning, and this is still off the coast. All right, this is still off the coast of Florida. But meanwhile, you're getting tropical storm. You're getting potentially tropical storm impacts from those outer bands, and you're gonna get lashed by these outer bands if you are on the immediate coast of Florida, even inland. You still will get those outer bands. But all I gotta say with this is that the farther to the west you are in Florida, the more you're gonna feel impact from the storm earlier on. And this hasn't even made landfall yet. It's still off the shore, off the coast, and it's already dumping incredible amounts of heavy rainfall in Florida as a 1,004 millibar low. Alright, it's starting to slowly work its way north, but it's still over open waters. And just because of how crazy hot these waters are, these sea surface temperatures, we have the potential for this storm to continue to grow until the last minute. So we can quickly check over here. We'll look at our sea surface temperatures. Let's look at the Western Atlantic here. And as you can see, look at that. You got 30 to 32 degrees Celsius sea surface temperatures. That's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit with your sea surface temperatures. That is absolutely incredible. All right. This storm has the potential to undergo rapid intensification. It really does. But I mean, with these waters, it really does. So, if I will tell you guys, if this storm was over waters for a longer amount of time, then this could have been a full blown hurricane by the time it hit Florida. But because it's not going to be over waters too long, that's why this is going to be a tropical storm. But the longer it stays over waters, the stronger it's going to get. So you could see it's going to move up through like this part of the Gulf, and this part of the Gulf, unfortunately, is the hottest. So it's going to move through an area with sea surface temperatures between 30 and 32 degrees Celsius, which right now are most likely our warmest waters on Earth. All right. So that just goes to show that this storm is going to have absolutely no issue with these sea surface temperatures, and it's going to want to stay over waters as long as it can, just to soak up all that moisture, all those super warm SSTs before it makes landfall. So that's why we're gonna get this strengthening before it actually makes landfall. So we'll go back to the GFS here. I'll go back to the southeast, and we'll take this out to landfall. All right. So by the time we get to 2 p.m. on Sunday, this is Sunday afternoon, you have a 1,001 millibar low that is about to make landfall. I mean, this is literally just about to make landfall on Florida. All right, 1,001 millibar low, pretty much solid 1,000 millibars, and boom, this actually does slow down a little bit just before it makes that landfall in Florida, but at this point it would make landfall as a 997 millibar low. That is what I would consider a mid to high end tropical storm. This is probably just a strong tropical storm. It's nothing that you guys haven't seen before. It's something you guys can't handle, but still a pretty strong and dangerous storm. The one thing to note is that these amounts of rainfall, they're going to be very high, because you can see this storm will be absolutely just dumping rain over North Florida here. This moves right up through like the Tallahassee area. I believe you guys are up there. You guys might not be getting the core of the storm, but definitely those outer bands for sure. Right, but this is moving through North Florida. You go into Georgia. This is still a 999 millibar low, so it's going pretty far inland. And just because of how much tropical moisture it has with it due to moving through the Gulf, it can still maintain its strength, which is interesting, because usually what happens with the tropical cyclones is that as soon as they go over land, they just die out or weaken out just almost completely and very quickly. But this one is going to have enough steam to continue over land for enough time to actually make it back over waters. So we're getting into Sunday into Monday. This is Sunday into Monday. So I apologize about that. I'm getting mixed up here. So this is Sunday night into Monday morning. So this is Monday morning here. All right, this is Monday afternoon, and so this is pretty much Monday afternoon to Monday evening. I'm sorry, I keep getting mixed up with those with the Zulu time and stuff. But we continue to watch the storm, and it kind of tries to make its way off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina by late Monday and then into Tuesday. And we get into Tuesday, and this actually makes its way all the way off the coast, still as a 1,000 millibar low. All right, so still probably a tropical storm at this point. And this is trying to get itself back over waters, and it actually strengthens now back down to a 994 millibar low. So this has gone from moving up through the Gulf, strengthening, becoming a tropical storm, and then hitting Florida, going over towards Georgia, comes back over the waters, and is re-strengthening. You rarely see that, and we actually saw a few wonky trends from the GFS, with the storm coming like this and like this. We thought it was going to be crazy that the storm was going to come back off waters, but that's going to be our reality. We just thought that the absolutely insane part was that it's going to turn around and hit Florida. That's not going to be the case. All right, we pretty much knew that because that would be pretty mind-boggling, pretty ridiculous. But we take this out farther into Tuesday. Now we get into Tuesday night. This is a 984 Category 1 hurricane, okay? So you notice how we take a huge jump from about a 1,000 or like a 994 millibar low to in about 24 hours, probably even less, like 12 hours, we get this down to a 984 millibar low. Because remember, these SSTs across the coast are probably about 29 to 31 degrees Celsius. So you have the potential for what we call rapid intensification with the storm to the point where it could go from a strong tropical storm to a Category 1 hurricane that's still strengthening in about 12 hours. All right. And this is still off the coast. This wants to strengthen even more. And it's moving now. It's barely moving. It's actually looking like it's stalling out pretty much, but it's moving just to the east to the point where it almost seems like it comes off the coast because it just wants to regain strength and strengthen to the point where it can get down to a 980 millibar low, which, I mean, you're getting close to a Category 2 hurricane. And this is just still strengthening. It's moving gently to the east, and now it's starting to pull north, and it's down to a 976 millibar low, which you could say is a Category 2 hurricane, but it's a strong one. This is probably a mid to high end Category 2 hurricane just off the coast of North Carolina and South Carolina. So all of a sudden, you go from having just an ordinary tropical storm to having an absolute beast of a hurricane just off the coast. And this is something that we can honestly see as a possibility, a real possibility, because at this point, this point of the storm is actually in the National Hurricane Center's cone of uncertainty. So there's a chance that we're going to see a change in that cone of uncertainty, and we can actually see a potential change to the point where they expect also a potential hurricane off the coast of the Carolinas. But you take this out into Thursday morning. All right, we're getting to Thursday afternoon, and then hold on, this is Wednesday afternoon, so keep getting mixed up here. But now we're getting to Wednesday night, and this weekend's strengthens and gets down to a 971 millibar low, which is still a extremely strong Category 2 hurricane. And you can see it's really just trying to slowly make its way farther north. And you're like, oh no, is this going for North Carolina? And yes, it is. And this moves its way up in Carolina, slams the Outer Banks here as a 971 millibar low. This is by Thursday morning into Thursday afternoon, and then this just makes a full-blown landfall, goes into the coastal regions of North Carolina. It's like this thing has a mind of its own, how it's wanting to avoid land. All right, you can see it looks like it's almost sensing that it's over land and that it's going to start weakening out, and it tries to pull itself off of the Carolinas. All right, obviously that's like, it has to do with the weather pattern and stuff, but I just find it very interesting that somehow it's going to do all these weird things to help it strengthen as much as possible. Like it stays over what it slows down here in Florida to stay over waters just enough to strengthen down to a sub 1,000 millibar low. All right, makes its way off the coast and then comes back over waters, slows down and moves gently to the east so it can strengthen and gear up for a landfall in North Carolina, and then just takes off and goes up towards the north. I know that obviously that's not the case, and that we obviously have to talk about the weather pattern stuff, but it's so crazy. It almost seems like it's got a mind of its own. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, but you see what could happen past that. All right, we really don't know for sure because we've seen a lot of different scenarios past this, but this is past the cone of uncertainty, you can see that we do. I think what's going on here is that we will probably get a trough that's going to dig down here into the northeast, and the timing of that trough is still to be determined. So we're gonna have to figure that out in future updates after this makes landfall. But you can see the GFS is expecting a 977 millibar low to continue to kind of scrape gently the east coast, but mainly staying off waters. But it really expands, almost like it's becoming a subtropical storm or whatever. I mean, you could argue this is still a hurricane, which I mean, it's pretty crazy that it maintains its strength as a high end category 2 hurricane all the way up to the northeast, but it gets really, really big and it just misses southern New England, Long Island. I mean, this is going to get dangerously close to Cape Cod if this were to happen. Obviously, this is not definitely what's going to happen. This is just one scenario from the GFS. But this is bringing a ton of tropical moisture. Like, I mean, a ton of tropical moisture just surging northward here. And we would get a ton of rainfall up into here. I mean, there would be so much rain from this storm, but this would be really bad for flooding concerns. All right, but this looks like it could go two ways from here. The worst, possible direction it could go in is like this, because obviously it would impact like New York City. It would impact Boston. All right, you've got Hartford, Connecticut out here, so really populated areas out here. Long Island, super populated. You got New Jersey out there, northern New Jersey, or it could change directions and move out to sea. And obviously, we have to talk about the trough to determine that. But we see what the latest GFS has us doing, and it does end up making potentially a third landfall. All right, third technical landfall in and around Cape Cod, Massachusetts. All right, and this is a very strong 979 millibar low. That's just incredibly strong and just got incredible amounts of rainfall and moisture. But this is bringing really intense winds to coastal regions of Maine, New England, even in southern New England. You're still getting impact from this. And this is showing right around Thursday to Friday of next week. So this is about a week out from today. So we still have a lot of time for this to change. And then this kind of just moves up towards Maine and Nova Scotia and kind of, gets sucked up in our weather pattern. And that's going to be it. So this is subject to change as well. This is going to be very interesting to figure out. But the fact that now we're seeing a few runs bring this dangerously close to not only the South Carolina and North Carolina, but to New England. This is the 12th run in the GFS. It's just a little alarming, all right? So we'll continue to watch this. We'll continue to hope that this is going to move out to sea. But I'm just telling you guys that it's not like a 0% chance that this is going to miss everybody out here. I'm still watching you guys. I'm not going to exclude you guys from the videos. I mean, we'll stay strong, all right? You just got to continue to watch it if you're out here. But, if you're in my area, like Long Island and just southern New England, all you got to do is just continue to watch forecasts, continue to watch these videos. I'll continue to pump out these videos, these forecasts, even after it makes landfall in Florida. So don't worry, I'll keep you guys covered, but we'll figure it out as we get later into this week and then into the beginning of next week. So we look at the GFS ensemble runs as well as the current mean of the tracks here. So mean meaning like the center of where the tracks would go, I guess. So as you can see, we have basically all of them going to Florida. These ones out here, these are just lollygaggers. These aren't anything that you need to pay attention to. You're not going to get hit by this if you're in like Mississippi, Alabama, or Louisiana. But this moves up into Florida, off the coast of the Carolinas, and then what happens after that? Well, it moves inland, and the GFS Ensemble, as of right now, wants this to kind of, the track they see here, the black little line they see here, it does take this up into up the East Coast and then into Long Island. Still has the 998 millibar low. So, I mean, pretty incredible to see that difference from the GFS run tonight with 977 and then the ensemble run showing 998. But really what you've got is most of the tracks actually taking this much farther out to sea than even what the 18Z run was showing. Doesn't even show landfall at all, really, on Cape Cod, but it shows Nova Scotia at risk. But you can see there's still a lot of members, a lot of tracks here that still take this out to sea, so this is good. This is good news that we have here. All right, But obviously, you could see more tracks like these where, I mean, they're weaker, but they do take this inland. This is not good to see. So obviously, these stronger members out here, we want to see them avoid land as much as possible. But if we see these stronger members take a turn for the worst and move inland, then that's when things are going to have to get serious for the New England states. All right. So we're going to take a look at now impacts from potential tropical cyclone 4. All right. So we're going to start with rainfall. And this is from the GFS model. As you can see, we're expecting in the Florida Peninsula, this is southern Florida, we're expecting anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain. That's a reasonable amount. I think that you could expect some locally higher amounts if you're in the Florida Keys. I really think that this is a little bit underdone. I think you could end up with maybe about 3 to 4, maybe even 5 inches of rain. But as of right now, we're talking about 1 to 2, maybe 2.5, 3 inches of rain off the GFS. But this is when the numbers get really serious. You see a big jump from going about 2 to 4 inches to abruptly 6 to 8 inches, and you're talking about rainfall totals that add up to snowfall like totals. But this is still off the coast. These numbers are still off the coast. But in the core of the storm, you can see it could be producing rainfall totals up to around 10 inches, which is crazy. But the entire west coast of Florida seems to be sticking at around 3 to 6 inches, 6 being the very high end amount from the GFS. This could honestly be a little underdone, which is surprising. And take this with a grain of salt, but I mean, this moves into North Florida, and it finally does bring in some of the numbers that go a little bit higher with 4 to 6 inches of rain. Very rarely do you see me saying that the GFS is underdoing and the totals and being conservative. But I think that the higher end amount that the GFS is showing with Florida totals actually could be more or less the right amount. So, you just gotta make sure that you're paying attention to that, just looking at the GFS. But even into Georgia, the GFS wants higher totals in Georgia than in Florida, which is pretty surprising. But in Georgia, the GFS is showing anywhere from 6 to 8, maybe even up towards 10 inches for areas on the coastline. And then this is when the storm really just stalls out and gets super strong off the coast of the Carolinas. But you could see the amounts that it could drop in, if this were to stall out, is incredible. I mean, you're talking about 20 plus inches, which, don't worry, this is not going to impact anybody. But up the coastline, anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of rain, certainly possible if you're in the tan or brown shade. All right, so really, if you're in Florida, I mean, this isn't going to be too bad according to the GFS, but, northern Florida, definitely some higher amounts. I'm not really liking this run of the GFS as far as rainfall totals go, and we'll look at what the National Hurricane Center has to say for themselves. But the GFS is being pretty conservative, except for what we're talking about in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and obviously we still don't know exactly where the storm's going to go after that. So I think it's time that we should head over to the National Hurricane Center and see what they're saying. So what they're saying, let me refresh because I think that this is actually outdated. So let's go back. Nope, this is the same information. All right, so the National Hurricane Center, what they're saying, this is the 8 p.m. update for today. They have an expected 6 to 8 inches along the coastline here, the western coast. So that's a rough 2 to 4 inch increase from what the GFS was showing. But you got Tampa out here, you got Key West expecting about 4 to 6 inches of rain. Tampa, you're expecting 6 to 8. This is going to lead to major flooding concerns. I think that we could really get some bad flooding, especially up and down the coastline. But Miami, 4 to 6 inches of rain. Orlando, you could probably see maybe a little bit lower, probably about 3 to 4 inches. But some spots, definitely north of Orlando, could get over 4, maybe even 5 inches of rain. That's certainly possible. But really all along the peninsula, I mean, especially on the west coast, you're getting some really intense numbers. But I think the average you could say is really between 4 and 6 inches of rain, which, believe me, that's certainly enough to cause some serious flooding concerns. But I know that Florida has been through so many hurricanes and tropical storms that they know how to deal with this kind of rainfall. So hopefully that'll actually decrease the chances of catastrophic flooding, which I really doubt is going to happen. But significant flooding, I definitely think, is a term that you can use with this storm. All right, but this is going to bring some more rainfall up the coast, and this is a forecast from the National Hurricane Center. This saying Savannah, you're talking about 4 to 6 inches. Charleston, maybe even 6 to 8. All right, and then Wilmington, you're very close to the 8 to 12 corridor. So there's a big area, see in here, this little splotch of orange. This is where you could get up to a foot of rainfall. That is incredible rainfall. That's when you could use the term catastrophic flooding possible. All right, but you're talking about serious rainfall totals, possibly even higher than what Florida is going to be experiencing for the Carolina coastline. So this really shows you that you need to be concerned and that you need to be prepared if you're on the Outer Banks of North Carolina or anywhere along the southeast coastline. Anybody out here is at risk for up to, I would say, 9 inches of rain. I think that's certainly possible. This is subject to change. This will expect this to change. This will change. But man, if these totals come inland at all, that's when things get really, really serious. This is already serious enough, but that's when things get scary. All right. So not to scare you guys, but big time flooding expected. I think we could even get a level 3 out of 4 risk for flooding based off of the Weather Prediction Center. So we'll see what they show. And as of right now, we only have I think this is day one. Let's see. So actually, just for the entire storm in general, we only have a slight risk for flash flooding. I think that this should go up for sure. I think this should definitely be a moderate risk. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, everyone on the coastline from Florida to North Carolina is under a slight risk for flash flooding. Expect that to change. Expect those numbers to either go up or go down with the rainfall totals. But either way, we're expecting a very strong storm. And then finally, for the last part of the update, we're looking at our peak storm surge forecast. Luckily, storm surge is not seeming to be that big of an issue. All right, so you can see pretty much from the Card Sound Bridge up towards Bonita Beach. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but we are expecting about 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. Now, it's really nothing you guys haven't handled. It's really nothing that's too crazy. So up to 3 feet of storm surge, pretty significant, but nothing really. Once again, nothing too crazy. Staying pretty low. Considering that this is gonna be probably a high end tropical storm. And then you get a little bit higher. You get up to 4 feet from Charlotte Harbor up towards Tampa Bay and the Suwannee River. All right. But we are expecting up to 4 feet of storm surge anywhere in the yellow shade. And Tampa Bay, you guys are right in the middle of that. So there could definitely be some pretty considerable storm surge, but it's really, once again, nothing too crazy. You just got to make sure that you're staying weather prepared and that that there is a threat for some pretty significant storm surge. But once again, it's really nothing you guys haven't handled. This could obviously change. This could go up. I really doubt it will. But so far, numbers are staying pretty low as far as storm surge goes. But all I gotta say after this is that we're getting another tropical storm. Nothing you guys haven't handled. It's a strong tropical storm. We just gotta make sure that everyone's staying weather prepared so that we don't lose anybody and that everybody is just staying safe out there. All right. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank y'all for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So stay tuned. Got more updates on the way for this storm. Even after this makes landfall in Florida, we'll talk about where this is gonna go in as far as Carolinas. And if this is going to bring any hurricane force impacts to the Carolinas, where this is going to go after the Carolinas. All right, because we could honestly be talking about a third potential technical landfall in the New England states. Pretty far out to talk about that, but definitely something to talk about in the future. And then obviously we'll continue to talk about the tropics and see if we can spot any more possible chances of development. But once again, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next video.